Hi, this is Xavier. I've been seeking answers to some of life's most perplexing questions my entire life. In 2014, I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, and ever since, I realized my calling existed outside of what I knew to be familiar. This podcast is your home for survivors like myself and those who are searching to find meaning to their why. In Season 1, the show includes coaching sessions with those from all walks of life. The intent is to show the human experience in its rawest form so that others may glean insight. Nothing is rehearsed or has been edited. As a board-certified wellness coach, my job is to ask the deep questions of those trying to make sense of their place in this fractured world. I believe life speaks to us in different ways. Many of us listen but don't know how or where to begin. As someone who has crossed the bridge between life and death, I say simply, begin where you are now and get busy living. If you liked today's episode, I would appreciate it if you could share it. Be sure to tag me at The Human Resolve on Instagram so I can reciprocate in kind. So without further ado, welcome to the Human Resolve podcast. In Season 1, Episode 1, entitled The One Stuck in Stress Weight, Xavier's feelings of going backwards weigh heavily on his soul. Only by listening to his body can he find peace. Hi Xavier, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Sav. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So what would you like coaching on today?
Right now, I am seeing like this immediate essence of having distractors being a little more amplified than I would normally have them. Case in point, let's say the last few days of these really humid weather. Okay, as soon as I wake up, I am feeling like a little elevated with the breathing. It's a little bit harder to breathe. And then I am suddenly in this influx of trying to get the perfect balance with some fans versus AC versus nothing. And then this has a huge effect of my mood sometimes, and items that wouldn't be so immediately stressful are taken up a few notches. And this is something that I know is quite temporary. We're in the dog days of summer, and I know I'll be complaining in a few months about the wind and the cold. But right now, I am seeing this as being something confining me, because another tier of the situation is I want to go out and do my cardio, and my cardio is usually outside. And when the elevated breathing's there, plus the humidity makes it not the most comfortable situation, uh, I am leaving some of the timing to be like later in the evening. And then it's compounded with the stressor of it appears that everyone wants to do their cardio at the same time when I go outside. So it is something that I am aware of, and I don't want it to be at this level. I want it to be a little bit more digestible.
So what I'm hearing from you is right now, just due to the weather and sort of the situation, you're just feeling like there's some impact with your breathing and your overall healthy lifestyle. And there's detractors that sort of get in the way of you living a very optimal lifestyle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you could think about sort of the overall goal for today, what would you like to get out of it?
I would like to get my exercise in, being both the cardio and some lifting. And I am trying to do it right before dinner, and I'm going to have a late dinner. And then I want to enjoy the moment of feeling accomplished while I have a little bite and after my shower. I want that overall momentary reward to be there, and it seems like it's so out of reach with some of the elements.
Okay. Have you ever had sort of success in this sort of area before?
Yes, I would have it at. I tend to see within these parameters that the success is in the destination. And the journey, it should be there, and it is there at certain points, but the overall weight of, oh, I have this tremendous amount of stress at certain points, I feel like, why even bother on a certain day? And that could be seen as an excuse of not to do it today.
So when that happens to you and you feel that, what do you do instead?
I will talk about it, number one, and then I will try to focus on the timing not being right, and that it will be replaced with tomorrow.
Okay. And when you say replace by tomorrow, what happens tomorrow?
Tomorrow would be like first thing in the morning. The very first goal is to complete those aspects.
And do you find that when you do prolong it, you do complete it the next day?
Yes, I tend to do it. I think it adds, um, momentarily, it will be a little bit more stressful that I have to do it before I do uh, all the other items I have to do in the morning. But waking up and having that immediate goal that I feel is more obtainable as a early morning goal versus coming later in the evening or in the afternoon.
Okay. All right. So if you're game, I would love to do a quick exercise with you.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just want you to get to a comfortable seat. If you feel comfortable, you can soften your gaze or close your eyes.
Okay.
And I just want you to take 3 deep breaths in and 3 deep breaths out. And I just want you to explore in your body. When you think of not doing those exercises and having your breathing compacted or your sort of lifestyle not where you want to go, what are the feelings or emotions that conjure up in there?
Um, it's feeling of delay and being unsuccessful and going backwards.
So this delay, feeling unsuccessful, and going backwards. Do you think these statements are true?
Um, they definitely are true in a moment, meaning a 1 day's measure of a lifetime activity.
1 day's measure of a lifetime activity. So the next day that you complete this, what do you feel then?
Hmm. I feel happiness
Mm-hmm.
and confidence
Mm-hmm.
and completion.
I know this might sound a little strange, but can you talk to this unsuccessful voice that's saying you're unsuccessful? Can you talk to it?
Yes.
Okay. What is it really saying?
Um, it's a reminder of the big picture, and it speaks to not being good enough, and that the repeated activity is only going to bring more non-completed activity and other areas of the life not being successful.
Do you feel that anywhere in your body?
Um, I would say the lungs,
Oh, the lungs.
the lungs, and the back. Those are two areas that seem to play a huge part.
Can you describe? Can you describe it to me?
Okay. First of all, with the lungs, um, when I am feeling the lack of, meaning the elevated breathing and the humidity, the lungs I feel are being burdened in some way. And on the flip side, when I know that an activity of cardio or lifting is completed, a session, um, the breathing does get elevated, but then afterwards, uh, it feels good. The breathing seems like it has went through a stage of strength and a course of a cycle where also with the back, um, there is, for me, uh, sometimes pain from the inactivity and some elevated discomfort afterwards. However, with the completion of the activities, the my back will be feeling better. It's more relaxed and certain points are not being aggravated and it's allowed to rest because it is also an area that goes through a cycle. The muscles are being relaxed after its heavy activity.
Can you breathe into this for me? This constriction, being constricted in the lungs and the back. Can you breathe into that?
Like physically breathe into
Mm-hmm.
it? Okay.
Is there anything else happening?
My other body parts, my hands, my thighs, my feet are being relaxed.
And when they're being relaxed, what's happening to the lungs and the back?
They are being focused on and they are allowed to regenerate.
Do you think the lungs want anything if it had a voice?
They want to be maximized and loved and nourished.
Do you believe it?
Yes.
And what does the back you think want?
Um, the back wants relaxation and healing and endurance, where it's gaining strength.
Do the two have a relationship?
Yes.
And what's the relationship?
Um, One area of strength can help the other,
Oh.
and one can hurt the other as well.
Has there been a time when it's hurt the other?
Yes.
How?
I've had pneumonia before,
Okay.
and the pressure of the infection would be felt in the back.
Oh.
Not necessarily the vertebrae, but the back region, the muscles. There is undue pressure that is making its way and being felt in each other's area.
So you mentioned a couple of things there. You mentioned you had pneumonia, and when one pressure, it would exacerbate the other. I don't know. Could you have a confessional with one of these two areas of your body?
A confessional, as in,
Telling them how you feel.
uh, I I feel very grateful that I have both, and they take care of me. And at times, I can feel disappointed over its warning systems, its distressors in the form of pain, in the form of inflammation and infections, and also relief when I am able to get relaxation and enjoy my uh, the different areas of having comfort.
Okay. And this one is for the lungs or the back?
For both.
For both. Okay. Would you like to, I don't know, tell the lungs anything that you never told the lungs before?
Hmm. I am very grateful that I have had the healing of bronchitis and having pneumonia and even asthma. I also have felt the overwhelming stress and discomfort from those areas of the lungs and the breathing being out of balance. But most of it is being grateful.
Also being grateful. Do you think right now the lungs believes you?
Yes.
Okay. And what about the back? Do you have anything to tell the back?
The back is more disappointment than um, gratefulness at times. The unpredictability and constant maintenance required with my back situation is um, a huge burden at various times. And I would prefer to thank than to feel a sense of treason,
Mm.
where why am I having this over and over?
Mm. I love the word you use, treason. Why treason?
Um, because the back is such an important area.
Mm.
We are even identified as an organism based on our backs.
Mm.
And it's something that is usually taken for granted
Mm.
until it seems to constantly take over your time and pleasantness, your mood, your comfort. Um, and it's an area that wants you when they are negative notions to isolate you. And the back, when working properly, is one that could bring you together, whether it's sports or just being able to effectively have daily activities of living. And it it feels like an area that is out to attack you.
Mm. Out to attack you. Have you ever felt the back was your friend?
Um, yes, um, when there's been a a sense of relaxation
Mm.
and a turnaround from the symptoms of uh, distress and pain.
Mm. Mm. And has there ever been a time when the back has been your enemy?
Um, yes, it's it's like the worst enemy at at times,
Okay.
especially when you're not expecting it,
Mm.
when there has been no type of so-called injury or um, heavy lifting activity, just from waking up one morning and having these elevated, overwhelming senses of pain.
Hmm. So when you have those overwhelming senses of pain, what do you say to it?
Why? Why me?
Mm.
Why now?
Mm.
And what would it take to get back to when it wasn't at this level?
Mm. 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 Is there any way you can ask the back that question now?
Hmm, how do we get back?
Do you hear anything?
I'm getting a an immediate feeling of um, focus on the activities that have worked.
Mm.
It's patience as well, and not to focus on the feelings of being overwhelmed.
Mm. This feeling of overwhelm. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Um, this is not working. This is not the time. What can be done? Will it work at all? This is a waste of time to try. These mixed emotions where you're feeling elements of hope and aspects of inefficacy. And what am I missing?
When these things, that back pain happens, is there
Mm.
sometimes a trigger?
Um, Sometimes yes. Um, a lot of times it can be something that is not noticed. It could be a combination of, for example, a combination of sleeping the wrong way plus walking with maybe the most, not the most comfortable shoes, supportive shoes, plus sitting the wrong way, posture, um, being in front of the computer too long, and not regularly changing positions and stretching, not stretching at all. These elements I may not see a little at a time having a tipping point later on in the day. Or it could be one sitting. I'm watching something and I'm sitting not at the best angle. And as soon as I turn the other way, the pain starts. So it's something that has to be constantly monitored and uh, thought about and acted upon. And the worst is waking up to it. Waking up to it, it's put together with the instant emotions of why now, why me, why when I wake up. It sets a very negative tone for the rest of the day.
And when this negative tone that gets set for the rest of the day, do you think it's always due to a physical situation?
Um, no, physical say physical conditions at the time can play a huge part, but typically it could be just the timing of things in life. And stress is another area that could adversely affect the body,
So when stress
obviously.
happens in your life, how does that work?
um, it can be healthy at many levels and could be something that assists in the growth of other areas. But for me, when there are certain periods of time when an overwhelming feeling of stress is standalone or coupled with other activities in one's life, and um, having a supportive network can definitely assist and help. But um, when it becomes an entity that is isolating me, that is when it is taken to a different level, a very toxic level. And when it's at that stage, I mean, I try to focus on something else, whether it is the physical, going and stretching or exercising, or even having a good laugh, connecting with friends and family, and trying to make sense of a situation with something that is much more lighthearted, and then also making something constructive of the moment.
And when you do those things, are you successful?
Yes, I would. I definitely believe that those areas cover almost all of the major levels of stress. Um, the one area that I don't have much control can be the physical, and the the unknown and the worry about not having control brings about the ultimate stress.
Now, I would love to do this thing with you. I give you a key, and the key basically allows you to fast forward 5 years from now. You can fashion it any way you like. What does that look like for you?
Mm, I am flipping burgers at McDonald's. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I am being in the moment, making jokes, no matter what the narrative of the stages and circumstances in my life. I want to make jokes. I want to have a good time
Okay.
and be lighthearted. I don't want that ever going away from me.
Okay.
And I don't want it to go away from people that I care about as well. It's very hard when I have people close to me that are hurting from circumstances. But I want to also have the people that have been very good to me in my life in 5 years. And I want to be continuing with my journey of improving myself on a physical, spiritual level.
Okay.
I want to be able to uh, explore and throw myself into situations that are uncomfortable in many senses to me so I can learn. I want to be embracing change as much as I am right now, which is much more than I was before. And I want to be a continued area for support for people around me. I want to bring some of my perspectives of changes and life circumstances and different shifting of thoughts and experiences where it's something that could hopefully uh, assist someone.
So,
And mhm,
how's your back?
my back is an area that is filled with new innovation because an area of that is something where I don't know where the future is going to go. 5 years from now, there might be new types of stem cell therapy
Ah,
that is bringing about changes that we never could have thought of.
okay.
and it's more accessible to the average person.
Okay, but remember, I'm allowing you to create it any way you want. You can fashion it any way you want. How's your back and lungs?
The lungs are doing very well. Its period of difficulty being the very humid days of summer and sometimes the very windy days of winter. Those which are stressful for anyone are a little bit less stressful for me in 5 years,
Okay.
where it's something I see as realistically an adversary when things go adversely.
Hmm.
However, I'm more equipped to dealing with it. There's some new exercises I could do, and maybe there is a special filter for air purifier or some type of um, asthma type spray that opens the lungs a little bit more for this type of weather. There, for me, would be more advances and something that I would be a little more aware of and engaged with. So, in 5 years, having the dread and the circumstances of these stressors are brought down. Instead of being enhanced from getting older, it would be brought down a little bit. And a little can go a huge way in these areas for me.
Okay, so what would 2025 version say to 2020 version?
2025 would say be patient, keep your sense of humor, and always be researching
Always been.
and don't depend on anyone else.
Wow, always be researching. So, how could you create those action steps? You said keep laughing, always keep researching. How do you think you could make that into action steps now?
Okay, with the keep laughing, I believe that's just my demeanor,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my personality where I need to focus on the overall situation. And if I could find a component that could bring humor, it's something to enjoy in the moment. And when it comes to the researching, I would be more engaged and constantly engaged in uh, having having the information around me, whether it's going online and having a community that I am talking with and practitioners to advise of possibilities around. There would also be the willingness and openingness to having these areas being something viable and worth my time and consideration to explore. Right now, there is several types of new treatments that are gaining um, more popularity as time goes by, and those could be quite promising for people like me. And and modern medicine has come a long way, but also modern thinking has grown, where being engaged with daily activities of even getting out of bed and waking up the right way could have an effect throughout the day if it's done every day. And it's the more I am hearing about techniques and treatments and exercises and being engaged with communities, it gives me more hope. And it gives me conditions and periods and people to look up to.
And do you feel that you have these resources, people, communities, as you mentioned?
Yes, I have some that I am. Uh, I try to constantly uh, be in the loop, and also um, there are so many that I don't know, but I feel like that I'm open enough to try to ask people and try to find out.
Excellent. Can I offer you a resource if you're open to it?
Yes.
Sure. So you can create a keyword for a Google alert. And that way you're alerted.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, Xavier, we're almost sort of closing in a few minutes, but
Uh-huh.
how can you keep yourself accountable for these steps?
Um, what I can do, which I've done similar with weight loss. One thing that has worked for me is to maintain a diary of what's being done on on that topic, and also um, some type of um, like material item I can get that is used for the practice of what needs to be done, or is something that I would look up to at the end of the journey. For example, with weight loss, I would get uh, some type of outfit or suit to wear once I get down to a certain size. And in an area of back maintenance um, and breathing exercises, maybe I could get something for the cardio that I could have as a reward, or something for the maintenance of the back, maybe a posture supporter. And it's something that I would get and I would make a promise to myself to utilize for whatever duration.
Wow, so you mentioned a couple of things there. You mentioned some type of posture support. You mentioned some type of sort of way to keep you accountable for this. Are there any obstacles in making this happen?
Um, no, there is um, the willingness, the open mindedness, and um, having it being a daily goal.
So how willing are you?
Um, I am fully engaged. Um, the breathing is something that I have to do, and I do use a spray, and I regularly monitor my breathing capacity. And I know that my difficulties are just for the coming weeks and on the really difficult days. And um, something like yesterday where it was raining, and I I don't mind light rain or rain without it being too cold. My breathing was quite different than the day before and today,
Ah,
and that is something that it seems like sort of like a temporary situation, even though it's dramatic while I'm in it. Um, more um, more maintenance on back uh, back activities would be something long term, which I have been incorporating,
Mm,
but I need to take it to another level.
mm. You mentioned earlier about exercises, and then you mentioned compacted breathing. Oh, do you have any resources to maybe fix that?
Um, there are groups that talk about their experiences on Reddit with back products, back therapy,
Mm,
back exercises, what's been effective, where they have come from, and where they are at in terms of mobility and team sports, let's say,
mm,
where they weren't able to do before. And there are there's a nice amount of attention on this topic. So there's a lot of information out there,
mm,
and something that some of the information that I've had, let's say if it was a few years older, I had a nice amount of information then, but the information evolves so quickly, and there's always new stuff coming out that it is something to, in a sense, completely relearn.
mm,
But the end result and the journey would uh, any type of slight improvement would be drastic,
mm.
especially when at times like this.
I see. So going back to your earlier question, when you first came in, you mentioned sort of waking up and having sort of these physical difficulties with the breathing, and then also, with your back. And now, sort of, you went through this process of talking to it and talking to both, and then sort of fast forwarding 5 years from now. Is there anything that you feel that you gained or garnered from that experience?
Um, that it should be seen as a big prize and something obtainable,
Hmm.
and the time to take steps is now.
Wow. Time to take steps is now. And how strong is that feeling for you? Take steps now.
Um, it's
Hmm.
quite strong where I am doing more research on some of the products that are out there for low back and uh, even stuff like the temporary treatment of let's say icy hot or the electro stimulation. Um, Even though I might have had some uh, some good results initially, some of the results weren't so favorable after some time, but there are a variety of things that are in the marketplace right now that I should at least learn about.
And by learning about it, what happens?
I would feel either comfortable enough to give it a try, and at that stage, I would need to execute whatever the product or the technique is um, consistently and with the level of um, it being the way it is prescribed and how it is helping other people in a community. I should contribute my experiences.
Ah, and how would you contribute your experiences?
Just to go through and give maybe some simple pictures of how things are set up, the way that I'm doing an exercise or using a product, and how I'm feeling, and have it timed. And so I can give something reasonable that was presented to me, whether it was 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. I could contribute my my experiences, and that would be rather valuable to someone else. If they're good, someone might want to emulate it. Something and not effective, they would omit it.
Ah,
So it could be helpful to other people. And I know in a lot of these threads and the Facebook groups, people's experiences, uh, even when bad, is helpful for other people. And um, just being part of a group of people that are trying to change something so important in their lives can give importance to you even wanting to do it. So I think it's important to be involved, with these areas that you may not see it being promoted as a big important area of one's life, but to you it is.
to you it is. I love that. So now what would you say to your lungs and your back?
With the lungs, I would say just a temporary time of challenges, and it's something you'll go through next year, and keep looking into what has been working with people, their experiences, and just try something different
Wow.
and give it a try and try to document it if you can.
And what would you say to your back?
With the back, I would say um, to focus on what could be done at different parts of the day. And that would be waking up midday or before, working out, and maybe the afternoon when I'm starting to feel some um, some resistance from being in front of a computer in a chair for so long, and then even going to bed, setting up my environment correctly to have the best type of um, sleep hygiene, and having the components in place for me to have a nice therapeutic duration.
That's great. That's wonderful. Well, Xavier, we are at time, so I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Savio. Really appreciate you including me.
Hi there. I really hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast episode of The Human Resolve. If you feel that others may enjoy this episode as well, please share socially at The Human Resolve. They can also visit my website, thehumanresolve.com, where I offer one-on-one coaching sessions, daily prompts to move in the right direction, sync directly to your smartphone, and a subscription to my weekly newsletter where I probe into the secrets from living smarter to feeding your 3 brains. If you could also help me out and give me a review and rating on this platform, because I do care what you have to say, I would really appreciate it. Now, get out there, my friends, and get busy living.